Hello. Hi. Thank you. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. I just wanted to remind everyone, if you didn't see it, there's food up front. So feel free to grab something to eat, some coffee or some water, and to make sure you sign in and add a name tag. And like I said, we'll get started in a couple minutes. Girl Scouts, we do the quiet symbol and we put up our hand and wait until everybody also puts up their hand. No one will know what that means. But it does get the crowd to be quiet because they see the one person holding their hand up. That you're going to say a few words at the beginning. Are you going to do the talking or is there?
Yes, I will do the presentation and do some
Okay. 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 So I'll turn it over to you or Eric?
to Eric
Eric.
first.
Okay.
Yep.
And I introduce myself to Eric.
Yes. Go ahead. Pretty good turnout. I was telling Eric I get so nervous that no one's going to show up. Is it either really bad or really well, I think. But as long as you have some people,
Yeah. Man,
that would have been great to have
yeah.
members.
Right.
Yeah. I know Women's Club's meeting tonight too. Yeah. We only have so many vacancies for our
Yeah, that's the shared destiny. This is the house we're talking about.
people are probably trying to figure out what
And
it
above
is.
it, right above it is the end.
Right. Bring some sandwiches home. Ready? Okay, you ready? Okay. Oh, wait, you're going. Let me get everyone's attention. You know how to do that.
Yeah. Good evening. I think we're ready to start. I'm glad to see such a good turnout tonight, despite all the other meetings which are being held in town. Hazel Nurse, I'm chairman of the planning board, and I'd really like to welcome everyone to our first meeting to discuss the implementation of our plan for the downtown area. This is one of the major things on our master plan, and I'm glad to see the town is beginning to move forward on this. They did receive some money from a grant, and the town provided some matching funds. Tonight we have with us our town planner, Jenny Gingrich, and also our consultants from RKG. I just really am delighted that you're going to be here. We're going to participate and have some ideas from the public at this time. This is our first public meeting, so we hope that you'll get the word, spread the word around about what we're trying to do, and there will be another meeting probably in June, is my guess at this particular time. So I'm going to turn this over to Jenny, who will then introduce our consultant.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jenny Gingras. I'm the planning director here for Westborough, and I know some familiar faces here, and I see some new faces, so that's wonderful. Just again, a reminder, we do have plenty of food, so feel free to get seconds if you already have your first. And then also, we had put out a scavenger hunt, which is essentially our form of a survey. And we have information about it at the check-in area. So if you haven't already done the scavenger hunt, please do so. You can do it at any time, even the middle of the night. You just have to follow along on your phone, and we also have printed copies as well. We're closing the scavenger hunt at the end of next week on April 12th. And if you finish it online and put in your information or turn in your paper survey responses, then you'll be entered into a raffle to win a prize of some really great gift cards for downtown businesses. So I highly encourage you to do that. And if you have any questions, please let me know. So I'll go ahead and introduce our consultant, Eric Halverson with RKG Associates.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. It's like the first nice night we've had in 6 months, so appreciate you coming out. We were a little nervous, figuring people might be walking around downtown. But thanks for coming out. I'm Eric Halverson. I'm a principal with RKG Associates. I manage we have our offices in Boston, so we're local. And we've put together a great team of consultants that you'll hear from tonight. We're the lead consultant, but we're joined by 3 other firms. Innes Associates, so tonight you'll hear from Emily Innes. FHI Studio, you'll hear from Francisco Gomes. You'll hear from my colleague Summer Pan. And then we have another firm who's doing all the visuals, so a lot of the maps you'll see, the 3-dimensional maps, are done by a firm called Over Under. You'll see them a little bit later on in the process. We have about a 25-ish minute presentation. It's really just to kind of set the stage, talk about some of the research that we've been doing over the last month or two about Westborough and the downtown specifically. It's kind of divided up into 3 sections, each about 8 to 10 minutes. So one kind of talking about demographics, economics, and the market. That's really important for a downtown, trying to figure out like who is here, who comes to the downtown, who works here, what are the opportunities for potentially supporting existing businesses or maybe bringing new ones in. A whole piece on land use and zoning, so the rules and regulations that guide development and form in the downtown. And then probably everybody's most favorite topic, transportation and parking, and that includes roads, sidewalks, bike lanes, and the parking facility. So tonight's presentation is sort of broken up into those 3 pieces. After each of the 3 speakers go, I'll come back and just introduce what we'll do after that, which is more of an open house style. You'll notice that there are a couple of stations set up around the room. Tonight is presenting to you just a little bit, but what we really want to do tonight is hear from you. You're here, either you live here, you work here, you own a business here, you have property here, whatever your relationship is to Westborough. We're not from here, so we need to hear from you about what are the positive attributes of downtown, what are the opportunities, and what are the challenges, so we can take all that information and figure out how do we get you from point A to where you want to be in point B over the next 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it might be. Jenny mentioned the scavenger hunt, so if you haven't done it yet, I think it's pretty cool, so please do it. There's some information up front, or you can talk to any of us about that. It'll be closing soon. With that, I'll turn it over to Summer.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone. My name is Summer Pan from RKG Associates, and I'll be presenting to you our portion of this presentation tonight, which is demographic housing economics. And then follow-up will be by Innes Associates and also FHI Studio. So let's go right in. Like Eric mentioned, we have this scavenger hunt going on, and we pulled some of the preliminary results as of yesterday. We got different numbers of responses for different questions, varying from 33 responses to 58 as of yesterday. But just want to show you some preliminary findings in terms of what people are saying so far about some of the questions as an example. So do you think Westborough's restaurant retail offering provide the right mix of businesses? There are 58 responses so far. People saying more restaurants, but no more chains. They want more retail to balance number of food and drink options, maybe more cafe, outdoor dining, and then frequently mentioned is that people need more entertainment options, gathering places. Another question, how would you describe experience of walking or traveling on Main Street? 53 responses so far. People mentioned the crosswalks could be improved with marking, shortened crossing distance, improved pedestrian safety and traffic around the Rotary. West Main Street is well loved. People mentioned historic architecture, size of buildings, mix of uses, etc. How would you rate condition of sidewalks? 51 responses so far, and the result is on the right-hand side bar chart. Around 53% of the people say poor or average. How easy or difficult is it to find Bay State Green? 40 responses so far, 57% said very easy to easy. So just some highlights from some of the example questions, and again, if you haven't done so, please help us to complete the scavenger hunt survey. That would be really helpful to us. Now let's dive into the presentation, 3 parts: demographic, economic housing, zoning, transportation, and I will talk about the first part. So let's look at some demographic, economic conditions, mostly just trends, patterns that we noticed from our data analysis, what it means so far about the town. So in terms of population and age, positive signs here. Westborough is a growing community, has been growing, and is projected to continue its population growth by 2030. In terms of age, we can see that all the age groups to the left of this dashed line here are under 45 years old, and Westborough is represented by this orange bar here compared to the county and Massachusetts. You can see that Westborough's has been, the younger population under 45, especially young workers, are growing faster than the county and the state, but also population is aging. Similar to the county and the state, people age 55 and above are growing the second fastest. In terms of race, ethnicity, the population in the town is diversifying, mostly driven by Asian population or people of some other race, meaning that the future of downtown or even Westborough, should speak to this increasing diversity. In terms of household trend, growth is driven by renter household and family household. So Westborough has faster growth in family household. That's contrary to the county and Massachusetts, and also proportionally more family households. 70% of the household here are family households. And then in terms of household sizes, mostly driven by 2 to 4%. And again, growth is driven by renters. Renters have been growing faster than owner household. And in terms of age, it's interesting that the growth is driven by both younger renters and older owner households. That speaks to me in terms of future housing development in downtown. We should think about how to meet this demand from younger renters, but also older owner households if they wish to downsize or be more integrated into the downtown setting. In terms of tenure, it's mostly a 60-40 split, 61% owner-occupied household, 39% renter. And we should know that the renter percentage is increasing and owner percentage or share has been declining in Westborough. And this 39% renter percentage in the town is actually higher than the county and Massachusetts. In terms of education and income, positive trends here. The largest growth in residents have higher education attainment levels, meaning they have graduate degree or higher. They've been growing the fastest. And also households with the highest income, meaning they earn 200K or more, has been growing the fastest. And almost all the income ranges earning below 200K per year have decreased almost. And this trend is similar in the county and Massachusetts. In terms of jobs, positive trends here as well. Employment in the town has been growing and is projected to continue this growth by 2034. The graph on the right-hand side shows that the labor market size. So around 9,000 people, which is the workforce population, meaning people actually engaged in the workforce. So excluding retirees or people under 18. 9,000 people the workforce live in Westborough, but in the daytime, there are actually 24,000 people working here, meaning that there's an influx of people of 15K that coming into the town to work. And this speaks to the opportunity for downtown we should think about, whether there are more options or opportunity out there for business to cater to this kind of working population. They may be working in downtown or working in office parks nearby. How we should position or, develop downtown to offer more maybe dining or entertainment options to, tap into this working force demand. And in terms of the future job growth, it's just the 2024 to 2034 future job growth. We can see that actually 61% of this future job growth is driven by retail, service, food and drink, entertainment industry, which is also speaks to the opportunities in downtown. Again, these industries tend to fit into a downtown setting and also tend to serve the working population well, either local residents or people, commute into town. If they're like coming into downtown to grab lunch or they hang out here after work, these are all opportunities. And we can see that entertainment jobs in particular has prospects there because it's projected to grow the fastest in Westborough and also in the broader region. Now let's look at the housing needs. So we know that there's a need for more diverse housing option in downtown. So what does the current housing stock look like in Westborough and what do we actually need? So the current Westborough housing stock is changing to accommodate shifting preferences. Housing stock currently is predominantly single family, but it has a higher housing density compared to the county and also the state and the region. 33% of the units are in multifamily buildings, which is a higher share than the county, state, and the broader study region. Here, study region means we define the study region as a region that composed of several towns around Westborough and also including Westborough so that we can compare our town to the broader region. And also housing unit growth, meaning the new housing unit development is driven by multifamily buildings with 5 or more housing units, indicating increasing housing density. That speaks to new demand in this kind of housing type and also new development interest. And Westborough's housing market or housing stock is actually kind of new compared to other New England towns. 60% of the current housing stock was built before 1980. As you can see from the map here, the center of the downtown has the oldest housing stock and new residential development sort of radiate from the downtown area. Housing vacancy is healthy, which is a positive sign for the community and also future housing development. 4.1% vacant available, meaning vacant units for sale or rent. And when we are looking at the for-sale home market, we can see some of the trends are telling us that Westborough has a very strong for-sale home market. On the right-hand side are the sales price of all homes. These are actual sales from 2012 to 2024, and the orange line represent Westborough. You can see it's been increasing, especially since COVID. On the left-hand side shows the 2022 median home value in Westborough is above 600K, which is higher than the county and Massachusetts, which are in the 300 and 400K range. And on the rental market side, similar. Demands are increasing mostly because you can see rents have been increasing. 2022 median gross rents is close to $2,000 per month, which is 1.5 times the county level and 1.2 times the Massachusetts level in 2022. In addition, that we project that future rental demand will continue to rise because based on population trend by 2030. So on the right-hand side, you can see that's the gross rent distribution of rental units, 2012 compared to 2022, which is marked by the orange bar. You can see how the distribution of units are shifting towards the higher price range above 2,000 or more per month. So now let's look at, okay, what is the market condition for, say, rental development, which usually come in the form of apartments. So we look at apartment market condition, all positive signs here in terms of inventory, vacancy, rents, absorption. This means that Westborough has a really good apartment market for future apartment rental developments here. Now here, absorption means a market with positive net absorption shows that there are more apartment units being leased than vacated, which is a possible sign, meaning that there are more people demanding rental units. Then how about some other sectors, like on the commercial side? Because we not only want more diverse housing option downtown, but also more new retail or office, things like that. So let's look at the market condition of those sectors. So here retail, it's a kind of mixed kind of performances, but it's positive in some kind. Retail inventory has been stagnant since 2020. Not much has been built recently, but rents have been increasing on par with the study region level, showing that there is some demand over there. And we also want to look at what exactly could fit into the downtown setting. What do we need in terms of supply and demand? So we look at retail demand from 1 mile, 3 mile, and 5 mile from the downtown center. 1 mile is usually walkable within 20, 30 minutes walk from downtown. 3 mile covers the whole town area almost. 5 mile cuts into nearby communities. So the takeaway here is that there are certain categories that could be supported in Westborough downtown, mostly specialty food store, shoe store, jewelry, luggage, leather goods store, used merchandise, drinking places. All these categories have direct unmet demand within 1 mile of downtown, meaning that there is demand out there, but not much supply. So this speaks to opportunities for new developers or business owners to come in here to provide these kind of services in the downtown setting. One repeated theme that we should mention that we've been hearing from stakeholder interviews is that residents want more entertainment options as well in the downtown, like areas that they can socialize and gather. And how about the office center? Not very ideal market performances right now, but in terms of downtown, office may not be the focus. Mostly, it will be like smaller individual office spaces, but it shouldn't be the focus in the downtown setting. Now, what kind of, we know that apartment or residential has good potential, retail has good potential. What can be developed? We know that residential mixed-use development traditionally have more efficient land utilization, and that's also true in Westborough because we look at the downtown properties. So all the properties not shaded, they are commercial or mixed-use properties. And you can see that mixed use with residential, they actually have higher land utilization, meaning that they take up only 2.5% of the total land area in downtown, but they contribute 13.8% of the total property assessed value of all the properties in downtown. So this could be a very viable option for downtown redevelopment. And this is some example that you can see residential mixed use in Hudson. So with that, I will transition to zoning. Will be presented by Emily from Associates.
Thank you, Summer. Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Ennis from Ennis Associates. I'm going to talk to you about zoning and land use, and I'm going to give you some information up here. We have a lot more of the details of this information at our station, so we hope that you come and visit us there. This is a 3D map that you're going to see at most of the stations, if not all of them, but just to give you an idea of where things are in the downtown from this aerial perspective, we'll be seeing this over and over again. So how many of you are familiar with zoning and what it is? All right, so a few of you in the crowd. For those of you who aren't, anybody who is a property owner, your property is zoned for something. It's zoned for some use. It's zoned for some sort of dimensional standard, whether it's height or setbacks from the street or other properties. And in some cases, including your downtown, there's two sets of rules for zoning. One is what we call the base district. That's what everybody has. And one is called an overlay district. And an overlay district sits on top of the base zoning. A property owner in an overlay district has they always have three options, because one option is to do nothing. The second option is to do something under their base district, and the third option is to do something under the overlay district. And it's important to understand that if you choose the rules of one, say you want to do something under your base district, you can't pick and choose the rules from the overlay. So for example, you can't say, the overlay is 3 stories, my base district is 2 stories, I'm gonna pick the 3 stories, but you know what, I like the distance from the front of the lot better in the base overlay, I'm going to use that. Can't do that. So as we show you our analysis here, just sort of the snapshot picture, we're looking at what are the dimensions, what's the existing zoning, what's the existing land uses, do they match? And actually in some cases, spoiler, they don't. What are the dimensional requirements for each of the properties? Do they make sense? Are there properties that don't currently meet the dimensional requirements? What types of businesses are here, and what is the impact of the historic development pattern, the historic buildings on the downtown? So we do a lot of that base research, and what we're going to do tonight is show you a summary of some of that research. So you have 4 zoning districts, you have an overlay district. They're all quite close to each other, and each district has different requirements for how the building sits on the lot, how tall the building is, and also what uses are and are not allowed. And so we've got a couple of things here, the 4 districts. You have the downtown planning overlay district, which are those blue heavy lines. And what we're looking for is to see, okay, how do these districts work with each other, both based on what's here now and given the analysis of what could be here, the market analysis, what could be here in the future, because nothing gets built unless it meets those zoning requirements. So there's a couple of things that we look at, and we'll call your attention to here. There's several different ways of allowing for uses. One is as of right, which means you need a building permit. Sometimes you need a building permit and a site plan review. And then there is, the other way is to allow it by special permit. Special permit means that there's public notification requirements, there's a public hearing, it goes in front of the planning board. It's a higher level of permitting. And so we look for in towns and cities, what are they doing in terms of as of right? Are those the uses that they want to have? Are they encouraging people to have those uses? Versus special permit, is there an appropriate level of control with a special permit? Or could that community be discouraging people from investing because the requirements are higher for the special permit? So here you can see we're showing a list of as of right uses. It's probably a little fuzzy from where you are, so we have multiple copies of the list at our station. So we've got the IA, the industrial A, the industrial B district, and then also looking at which uses should be as of right. One of the things that we did notice is with your downtown overlay district, almost all of those uses are special permit, which means they have to meet that higher bar. Now, sometimes that's absolutely appropriate, and sometimes you want to relax it a little bit for the uses that you want. So as we look at your market demand, we like to compare that to the uses. So that's our question. One of our questions to you tonight is which uses should be as of right. Another thing we notice is all of these sort of red shades are some sort of auto-oriented use. And so when we look at a downtown, we're looking for walkability. We want pedestrians to feel comfortable parking, getting out of their cars, walking to the different places, in and out of the stores, in and out of the businesses. Car-oriented uses can prevent that. They typically have driveways that aren't well defined. There's traffic going in and out frequently on the site. And so we look to see where car-oriented uses are. There also tend to be less value relative to other uses in there. And as you can see, not only do you have quite a few car-oriented uses, you have them in clusters. And so one of the other questions we're going to ask you tonight is if those were to change over time, whether because the value changes or because in this part of the study we collectively decide that maybe the zoning can change, what would you like to see in those places? How would they contribute to a walkable environment? And so you can see here that there's less of the pedestrian, the walking-friendly areas. It gets fragmented because you have all of these different driveways that create safety challenges for both pedestrians and drivers. Everybody has to look out for each other a little bit more. There's not a continuous facade that gives you sort of shelter and activity to walk by. And it's just not as friendly or as safe as we'd like to see. So, and then here you can see some of these driveways where you're not quite sure which is the sidewalk, which is the driveway, where should I, the pedestrian, be, where should I, the driver, be. This is obviously mostly a commercial area, but there is existing housing, yellow, and that sort of, the two different yellows are residential or mixed use. The rest are commercial. The purple is a little bit of industrial. And we find it intriguing where there's an industrial uses allowed in a downtown because the people who are working those jobs may be supporting during the day some of those retail or restaurant businesses. At night, with more entertainment, other people are coming into the downtown to support those businesses. So we like to see that mix, but we're going to be interested in hearing from you tonight what uses are important. And how do we, with that mix of uses, with the mix of jobs, activities, restaurants, retail, how do we create a real space? How do we create something that is very pedestrian friendly, that has the cars where they should be and the people where they should be? And then how do we use, and I just want to call back, you'll see there's quite a few buildings here that are historic with some more contemporary buildings mixed in. You are very lucky in having such wonderful existing historic buildings. So as we think about new uses coming in, maybe new buildings coming in, how do we take advantage of that existing historic structure, that development, to really create something that retains those unique qualities of this downtown? So we're going to ask you to think about some of those uses. What could go in the historic buildings? What could go in potential new buildings? What would those look like? How would they relate to each other? We also want you to think about the scale of those buildings. So you're all familiar with your clothing sizes from extra small to extra large. So these are translating those to different sizes of businesses and buildings. What do you think is appropriate in this downtown? I mean, we have our ideas, but we're more interested tonight in hearing your ideas. So from an extra small storefront up to a smaller one, maybe a medium is a little bit wider, maybe a large, you're talking about an office use, an office-only building, and an extra large, are those industrial uses that size appropriate for the downtown or not? So we're going to be asking you that question at the station. And then finally, when we think about activities, we want to think about that balance of business sizes. You saw a total amount of square footage in the retail demand, but how does that actually translate into storefronts or business fronts? What mix is appropriate of large, medium, small, extra small? So we want to talk to you about that tonight as well and see what you think of in terms of the activity in your downtown, how that draws pedestrians in, supports the different levels of business, and how it creates a really vibrant, active street. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Francisco for transportation.
Okay, I'm going to make this quick because I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff you already know. You folks, you experience moving through the center of town here, every day, many of you, maybe a couple times a week. So I think you understand what works and what doesn't work. And I'm most interested in speaking with you. I'll be, just to advertise for my breakout group, I'll be in the back corner of the room. We'll be talking about how to get around, how things should work better. First, I'm going to try and impress upon you that I have a general notion for what's working and what's not working. So first of all, as you're all aware, you have a decent amount of traffic that gets funneled through the center of town. And that's because this is one of the most direct links between Route 9 and the Mass Turnpike. You have a big swamp to the east of you. In order to go around it, to get between those 2 points, you have to come right by this building. So that's the source of some of your problems, and there's not an easy solution to that. But how we manage that traffic when it moves through town is really what it is we want to talk about. So as we zoom in a little closer, everything merges on this point right here on the Rotary. And this is a traditional New England style of road network that started as a horse path and a wagon trail and that sort of thing. So everything merges upon one point. There's very little grid or redundancy in the system. There's a little bit of cut-through traffic just to the southwest of us. But really, in order to get from point A to point B, you have to go right through the center of town. And so that's what creates some of the traffic congestion. When we take a look at the numbers, the traffic numbers, and those are the numbers you could probably faintly see written on the road there, and I have a laser pointer. So these numbers right here, these are high volumes, but not crazy high volumes. If we were on Route 9, we'd be looking at probably 30, 40,000 cars a day or something like that. So you have on any one of these legs coming off the rotary are about 10,000 cars a day, per day, that are on that segment. So if you were to lay out a traffic tube, each time a set of wheels rolls over it, you would have, it'd be hit 10,000 times. That's basically what that means. And we actually don't use traffic tubes, we use traffic cameras these days. And we had traffic cameras out here about 3 weeks ago, and it verified all these numbers that are also available from Mass DOT. All right. So some of the glaring issues that we pick up from both Google Maps will tell us where the traffic is, and based upon the traffic data we collected and our general experience, my experience driving into town this afternoon, is that you have a pretty good bottleneck just to the north of downtown, headed in the direction of Route 9. And that happens in the AM. It happened to me in the PM as well. And in the PM, that traffic's all coming back down. So you see that big, heavy black arrow on the right side of the page. As it's kind of zippering up here, coming off of 9 into one lane. And then things slow down as everyone takes their turn going right through the rotary. So we have some basic congestion that needs to be dealt with. And there it is right there. And this was a traffic model that we built. If we were to animate this, you can see all these little cars moving around. Our traffic engineers are real proud of this stuff. And it backs up way past the rail overpass. And I know from looking at the sign on that overpass and driving underneath it and speaking to a gentleman in the room earlier today that is struck by a truck on a regular basis, which creates all sorts of traffic issues for you because there's really no easy way to get around that. So we'll talk about that today. So in summary, you have some other issues. I talked about the low rail overpass. You have high traffic speeds, some skewed intersections, which slows things down, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it also can create crashes. As we get right above the rotary, so this is looking down, there's a lot of issues going on mainly around just ambiguity of traffic movement, who has the right of way. And you have long pedestrian crossings, a yield sign combined with a stop sign, which is a pretty untraditional or unconventional approach. Wide pavement, some missing long crosswalks, some missing sidewalks, poor sight distance around that corner. And it all happens within a very confined area. So the benefit of that is it tends to slow things down when things are busy. Of course, the drawback of that is you have long queues in either direction on any given leg. Thinking of this as a pedestrian, you have some segments that just don't have sidewalks, so you have to be on the other side of the street or share the space with cars, which is less than ideal for a historic town center that was around before cars were around, when people were walking. That's how they got around. These roads belong to people and horses and carriages. There's long crossing distances between marked crosswalks. There are marked crosswalks is good, but up to 1,000 feet, 800 feet, it's a long way to go to cross the street safely. And we mapped out the sidewalk network, and you have a pretty extensive sidewalk network. There's mostly sidewalks everywhere, but there are some gaps. And for a town center, you'd probably ideally want to close those gaps, ensure you have sidewalks on both sides of the roads everywhere you go. We pulled down the crash data from the state, and what we see is the darkest blue are the highest number of, these are clusters of crashes over a 3-year period. And we're right in front of where we are right now is the highest cluster of crashes. It was 85 over a 3-year period, and this is property damage crashes. So if we go to injury crashes, it's a similar pattern. Those crashes are happening in the same place. Fortunately, there are far fewer than the damage-only crashes, but still, the highest cluster right in front of where we're at right now. So I'm interested in finding out why that is. We need to take a closer look at that, and if any of you could tell me, once again at my corner table back there a little later, briefly, I'd appreciate that. Pedestrian crashes, fortunately very few over that same time period, but 4 is still 4 too many. And those crashes, once again, are happening in the same place as our concentration of car crashes, which is this stretch of roadway. And bikes, fewer bike crashes, those are a little more spread out, and 2 of them right at the rotary. I'd like to briefly talk about parking because in a town center such as this, almost everywhere I go, there's a perception that there's not enough parking. And so we quickly like to get to the bottom of that and pierce through any perceptions surrounding that. Town did had a parking study done 4 years ago now. It was a very thorough study. It counted up all the parking spaces. You have a lot of parking. All that blue is private or commercial parking. The orange is municipal parking, and then the on-street parking is red or green. And so there's a pretty big inventory, over 1,000 parking spaces in this downtown area. The utilization is relatively low. So this is weekday. Late morning is a peak period for any town center. Everyone's showing up to work. People are starting to show up for the lunch crowd if you have a lunch type scene. And so this is your peak parking period, and what we see is a lot of greens, yellows, and blues, which mean, generally speaking, less than half of that space is occupied by cars. So during your peak weekday periods, you have capacity both on-street and off-street with respect to parking. There may be certain areas, certain blocks that are all filled up, but if you look a little bit beyond, you generally have capacity. And that's even more true on the weekends, where you have very low parking utilization. So that's great news. As planners, we love to see this because we see parking lots as being development sites. And if you have extra parking capacity, that means you can build on a parking lot, you can add more demand, and you're not going to upset the apple cart with respect to parking in the downtown. So this is all very good news for our planning work. So with that being said, I want to hand it back over to Eric, who's going to give us some instruction on the next part of this. And the next part of it, we're really looking to you folks to help us out. Thanks.
Okay, I know we threw a ton at you. That's why we're going to be here for another hour plus, so we can answer all your questions at the stations. So just for orientation, if you want to get more food, there's a ton in the back, so feel free, or if you haven't gotten any. There's 4 stations set up around the room, one near where you came in at the sign-in. That is going to ask you questions, and Summer will be at that station, about the future of downtown. What's working well today? What's not working well today? If you were to leave and come back here in 10 years or stay here for the next 10 years, what would you want to see? How would you deem downtown a success if you were looking back 10 years from now? Next to that, I'll be here at the sticker station. So part of what we want to hear is not only what is the big picture vision or what are the problems, but as planners, we also need to know the where. So you heard Francisco talk a lot about location. You heard Emily talk about a lot about location. As we're thinking about future change or improvements or opportunities, changing zoning, changing transportation, it's really helpful to know the where. So that's this station. We've got a ton of stickers, and we're going to ask you to put them on the map to actually not only indicate what you would want to see, but the where. Then just working your way around, Emily and Paula will be at the zoning and land use station, asking all the questions that Emily introduced before. And then in the corner, make sure you see Francisco talking everything about parking and transportation. You're free to leave anytime you want, so it's sort of an open house. We're going to collect all that feedback. We're going to make a nice summary report. All that will be posted to the website, and we'll make sure to get this presentation up on the website by tomorrow. We'll send that to Jenny to get up. So like I said, once you have engaged as much as you want, and again, we'll be here till you're done, you're free to go, and there'll be a lot more information coming about the next meeting in about a month or 2. Great, thanks.
look at it. Yeah.